So Owen had made a decision and then has decided to go and play overseas and experience something else in his career. And I had to think there would be not an English fan that would begrudge Owen that after everything he has done for English rugby.
Sure.
He's a guy, I mean, through this last Six Nations, we're exchanging messages and WhatsApps, and he's watching every game of England, and I know now he's one of England's biggest supporters, no doubt about that. So, I don't think it was disappointing because I wanted him to continue playing for England. I'll always be supportive of what the players decide.
What have we lost by him stepping away?
I think that whenever everybody, all of us, anybody who's been able to wear the English at any point in time, we always know it's temporary. We always know that somebody else is going to wear it at some point in time, and it's up to the next people to come and take it forward and add to it. And so it's different. That's, and every player that's something different. Their character, their personality. Now, Owen's character, brilliant rugby player, and it's easy to go to his character and his competitiveness, but let's not mistake, this guy is a brilliant rugby player, and all that is underpinned by somebody who's fiercely competitive, driven, determined. Then the other players bring some similar traits, different traits as well. Different skill sets, and that's the richness. When you're a coach, you're dealing with this richness. And I go back to what I talked about earlier. Which players are you? Which quadrant do you stand in? Which side of the room do you stand in? How do you coach a certain player? Because everybody's got to be coached slightly different.
So tell us about the qualities, though, that we feel that left the room when Owen did.
I think Owen's the brilliant player, brilliant, absolutely outstanding captain, and somebody who cares so much. That and I see that in him, and everybody could see it in him. That sheer competitiveness you have. I think that's everybody can see right down to his very core how much he cares about the team he plays in, the teammates, how hard he works. A guy who put his body on the line every week, and a guy who had that ability. It was incredible, the ability he had to play as fiercely physical as he did, and incredibly skillfully. So defensively, he brought that physicality, the skill he brings with his passing and distribution game, his kicking game, and then has the calmness and coolness to then be that one person kicking a goal, just that one with 80,000 people staring at him.
Yeah.
And as well as captaining the team. That's quite an incredible mix to be able to bring.
Yeah. And I think he's a man that will be appreciated in his absence rather than at the time he was divided in his presence.
Well, I'm a huge fan of him as a rugby player. I had the fortune at the end of my career and early in his career was to play in the same team as him and feel that intensity that as a 18-year-old he would bring onto the training field. This is when I was in my early 30s. He's 18 years old. I'd been an England player for a number of years, captained the team for a couple of years, and been playing in the Premiership a long time. And then on that pitch, there was on the training field, the match field, he, 18 years old, would not hesitate in telling me exactly what I needed to do better to help the team win. And going back to that conversation about those people you trust, those people that you can have those forthright conversations with, just honest conversations. And 30 seconds later, it'd be absolutely, let's just crack on. He could do that at 18 years old. That's pretty phenomenal.
Cool. Can we talk then about the captain you chose to replace Owen with? You appointed Jamie George as captain, and then within a year, you decided to replace him. Now, as somebody that had been a captain yourself of England, how did you go about making that decision and then delivering that bad news?
I think decisions like that, there's always multiple elements into it, and I reckon anybody who's has to make those big decisions, you think deeply about it, and you consider all the different elements. So there's people you trust, you having consultation with, test my thinking, and that would be something I would do a lot, is to people testing my thinking. But ultimately, the decision comes down to you, as I talked about, as head coach. You're accountable for it, and I was. It's those things are never easy. I mean, I was England captain for a period, and I received that call from Jono that said, you're not in the squad anymore. So going from captain to not in the squad anymore.
How was that delivered to you?
Yeah, it's Jono who rang me. I think I've talked about this before. When he called me, I was actually, we just got married, my wife and I, and so we were away, we were overseas, and he called us, and is it good? Is it news you want to hear? It's absolutely not. But he's made a decision, and I'm sure he put due thought into that decision, and would have rather, he called me wherever I was in the world and tell me up front, yes.
How far into your honeymoon were you?
And the conversation now with Jamie, clearly not easy, 'cause I think the world of Jamie. I think he's been and continues to be a brilliant player for England rugby. And he's a guy, again, that late in my career and early in his career, we played alongside each other in the same team. And I think what he deserves just incredible credit for is the way he played in this last Six Nations, where I thought he was injured for the first test of the Six Nations and then played in the next four, and I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was genuinely brilliant, and whilst now vice captain, he continued to bring just incredible leadership and influence on those around him. Now, again, I go back to the ups and downs you have, and every one of us has, how you handle them and how you deal with that. You look at the way Jamie George handled that and the way he went about it, I think just incredible. And that shows so much about him as a person.
So how do you deliver bad news in a graceful way?
I think I think this one of the hardest elements of my job is selection. And so this is one area of selection. You talk about the captain, the vice captain, selection of the team, and because the reality is, I think I'm very privileged to work with a fantastic group of young men, and I want every one of them to play. I'd want to pick every one of them, and ultimately you can't. Now, so what I'm trying to do is be as honest as I can be. Yeah. I think that players see through it if you're not. I think they know they want the news. They want to know whether they're picked, not picked, and what's the sometimes they like the answer, sometimes they don't like the answer. People want to know, and I think trying to deliver news like that as honestly, as upfront as you can be, as humanely and ultimately the way I would like to be treated myself.
Here's the truth. Your body is like an engine, and you need to keep it at its best day in, day out. I mean, think of it this way. You wouldn't fuel a racing car on cheap fuel, so why are you doing similar to your body? I take Heights Vitals. I take them every single day. They stop me feeling run down, sluggish. I used to have brain fog, not anymore. 2 small capsules. These act as my premium grade fuel. I'm keeping with the racing metaphor. So Vitals are a blend of vitamins, nutrients, minerals, omega-3, all the Bs, basically everything you need to perform at your best. So if you're looking for something that keeps you in the driving seat with your nutrition, your brain and body health, then this is it. Taken by athletes, Olympians, and even some well-known racing drivers. This stuff works. So if you're looking to fuel right this year, go to heights.com/Jake or enter the code HP20 at checkout for 20% off your first order and start your journey today.
So tell us about your subsequent decision then to appoint Maro Itoje as captain. What were the qualities that attracted you to putting him in that position?
Well, I think I finally got over him as a 17-year-old embarrassing me on the training field at Saracens when I'm a 34-year-old or wherever I was, and this 17-year-old who's incredibly athletic and just stealing kickoffs and lineouts, and thinking I think I better retire because I can't keep up with that. So I think I finally got over that a few years later. I think we're blessed that we have a number of great options. Like Ellis Genge is another person I think you know. I think the world of Ellis, and he was a captain I selected at Leicester and led so brilliantly. And Maro is, I think what's great to Maro is I think his game's improved. Because he's challenged himself, and we have the conversation. So, what's the kind of example are you setting as captain? What kind of example do you want to set as captain? And he's going and he's trying to get better each and every day. He's a guy, I think he's added different elements to his game. I think physically he's improved. And what's Maro? I think Maro is a deep thinker who is very considered and then goes out and plays the game at a ferocious intensity. And I think that's a great balance.
So TSPDS, the shit that people don't see, is something that that was an acronym that was there at Saracens when you played. Tell us about the shit that people don't see now as England head coach.
Yeah. I think ultimately I'd talk about the people often in the game against France at Twickenham and the Allianz Stadium in the second game of the Six Nations, and France are clearly just such a top quality side, and they tested us and they broke us and they got through. And a lot will be spoken about balls going to ground close to our goal and chances they missed. And what I kept seeing that day is how hard the team was running to force another pass, to get in the passing lane and make it a harder pass, to just say, this is not over. We are going to keep going and we are going to keep coming. And I remember being sat in the stand that day and I wanted to win the game. That seeing the team grow that day and seeing the team evolve into one where they keep running, they keep chasing. So against Scotland, I said earlier about those tight losses that you turn, if you keep progressing, turn into tight wins. The way the players, Tommy Freeman against Scotland, and Scotland broke us on one of the last plays and scored. The way Tommy Freeman chased him to score in the far corner, as far from the post as possible, and then how hard the guys chased to put pressure on that conversion and stuff like that. That is super, super important. Those are the moments that don't make any highlights reel. They don't. They just don't. But those are the moments that make a team.
Who was the best head coaches that you served under then that taught you some of these principles of being able to accept feedback, but then you go and present that united front?
I think that clearly, and I think you'd anticipate the person I talk about would be Eddie Jones, who I think's a phenomenal coach, and the desire to get better, the desire to question, the desire to And he's actually the first person who described to me about the chronic unease you have. And I remember him describing it to me, the chronic unease you have as a coach, that you're always striving for more. It never settled. So, and I remember thinking of it late in that Wales game. And I remember thinking how much proud of the team's performance, proud of the team's effort, clearly, and delighted for them that they got the rewards. The chronic unease that you have, that immediately, how do we improve? What's the next step? Where do we go next as a team? That that's something that I feel constantly inside. And Eddie was the first person who framed it for me, and you feel it as a coach all the time.
And is it more acute as a coach than an assistant?
Without a shadow of a doubt, when you're head coach, you are accountable for everything. That's the reality. And by accepting the position of head coach, you accept that responsibility. So that chronic ease, you got chronic unease, you feel it definitely.